Labelle, president and founder of Fit Spirit.
The Fit Spirit Foundation gives Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia girls 13 to 17 real-life ways of developing healthy and active lifestyle. Everything we do at Fit Spirit is based on 3 key principles: inspire, motivate, and inform. During the 2009-2010 school year, Fit Spirit developed and implemented an innovative new program called Fit Club. Thanks to the long-term interaction we have with Fit Club participants, we can develop a stronger bond with them.
The Fit Club is a free program offered to all high school. The group of 15 to 40 girls are trained together 60 minutes a week.
I'm running to the top, I'm running to the bottom, I'm running.
Hello and welcome to another edition of From the Top. And today we're very lucky to have with us someone who at least 60,000 young girls across Ontario and Quebec will know well. I have with me Claudine Labelle, who's the founder and still very much the main runner, if you like, of Fit Spirit. Claudine, welcome.
Hi, John.
We don't often have someone quite so young as you who's also incredibly successful.
It's an honor.
But actually, I'm very pleased because I think a lot of the experiences that we'll be able to talk to you about will actually resonate with the youngsters today, because they'll say, well, that was only a couple of years ago.
Definitely.
You became a great athlete at school. Is that how it worked?
I became an athlete throughout this whole cycle. So I started cross-country skiing and I started competing. And I really enjoyed myself and I was good at it, so that was very positive. And it also did reflect on my own personal life, because sport brought a lot of discipline. And I knew I could achieve goals and I could set them in a sense that they were accessible for me. So at school I was talented because I knew what I needed to do in order to be good at school as well. I was using exactly the same recipe of success. And then a one that I was using for sport.
And then you got to 13.
Yeah, the famous 13.
What happened then?
At 13, it was a very difficult moment, because I was struggling between making the decision of really pursuing sport and being very, very successful at it, and winning medals and being on the road all the time, not seeing my family necessarily and my friends, and still being able to go to school and working extremely hard. So either the very serious side of me, so a little bit like mini wheat, right? The serious side of me was sport and school and being extremely performant, or the sugar side was having my friends, partying, having more social life and going shopping and really enjoying the more sweet side. And it was a tough decision to make, because I was a teenager. I wanted to be like everybody else, and that's pretty much most teenagers want as well. Is, you know, I'd like to be with a group where I belong to.
To fit in, of course.
And
yeah.
I like to enjoy myself. So I think the enjoyment part took over it, the serious part, and I really started going off the beaten track by just enjoying being with my friends. And it really did reflect in my own personal life, where sport and school was no longer important.
So did that affect everything else? What about work? Did you start working as well?
I've always been an entrepreneur, and always managed to make my own money in any ways. And I do remember that at grade 7, I started my own business of babysitting, and I had a network of babysitters where people could call, and I was dispatching the people, and so for me this side was not a worry, but it was mostly about, you know, just want to enjoy my own life and not caring about having all this pressure. Because by the time that I was at 17, I wasn't good at anything, because I didn't care about anything. So when except socialize, I was extremely good at that point. But I realized that at that moment, I had something that was meant for me, and this thing was running. And when I actually discovered that physical activity was extremely important to me, I decided to pursue that path. And I ran and ran and ran until I got to the point of bringing the cycling back as well. And then I started doing duathlon.
So duathlon is cycling and running.
Yeah.
In fact, it's running, cycling, and then running, isn't it?
That's
it's three
right.
bits.
Yeah.
And were you good at that?
I was good at it because my father initiated me to cycling at a very early stage.
Right.
And running was also something that I really enjoyed doing. Yes, I was good at it. So the first year I trained very hard, and then the second year I got to be selected on the national team to perform in France for the World Championship. So that was really nice to represent Canada. But I realized when I was there that the level of caliber was extremely high. And I went back home, realizing that I had much more homework to be done before getting to the next World Championship.
So then the accident.
Yeah.
When was that?
It was in 2004.
Right, I've gone a year out. Okay. So now you can't compete at that level anymore. Was there an epiphany moment after that, or were you miserable for a bit, or?
Well, just imagine you're training for almost your whole life, except this little break that I had in my teenage years. And I was cycling my bike, doing something that I really enjoyed, and I saw this car coming right at me and hitting me just in front of me, just cutting me off at the intersection for no reasons. And I do remember opening my eyes on the ground and looking and just like looking at my bike and saying, oh my God, what happened to my bike? It was all destroyed. And then 2 seconds later, I was like, oh my God, what happened to me? My body is truly achy. But you don't think about the consequences until you go through the whole
the hospital bit.
Exactly, for the next little while. And one thing that was very hard for me is the fact that all my friends and family members were in Quebec. And I was living here in Toronto with my husband, and my friends were cycling friends. So when you do not cycle, then I wasn't seeing them at all. So a few things happened there. One, I was struggling with a major head injury, and I wasn't able to have, my short-term memory was truly impacted. Couldn't read. I couldn't watch TV, I couldn't follow any discussions. And I do remember calling my mother 4 times within 15 minutes and saying, Mom, how are you doing? And she's like, it's because it's the 4th time you're calling me, and I couldn't remember that. And it's
so sort of dementia in a way, isn't it?
Not really, but it was very hard on myself, it seems, that's for sure. Because for me, I was always very productive. I knew what I wanted from life, and then I had this blank of nothing because I couldn't do anything. I had always major headaches. I was struggling with balance. Just walking was difficult. I couldn't read, I couldn't function. So what do you do? What do you do with your life? It's almost being a painter and saying, you know what? You'll be blind and you won't be able to paint anymore. Well, if it's been the reason of my life, then what else? How can I build back another passion? So, and it was a lot of treatment that I had to go through. I did hyperbaric chamber for a full year, 5 days a week. I did the physiotherapy, all the different treatment that had to happen in order for me to be back on track, knowing that I would never race again.
And that was the end of your world championship in duathlete.
Exactly in duathlon. But one really good thing that happened there is that I was coaching at that time, at the same time that I was training, and it gave me a little break to open my eyes and realize how important the kids that I was coaching were. And it was a life-changing experience because I saw a lot of improvement in the life of the kids by having physical activity involved in a daily basis in their life. For me, to be active was important, but when you take a step back and you see the improvement in the kid's life, it's even more so impactful. And so bring those little girls and little boys who I was coaching to having a better self-esteem, having good and positive goals in their personal life, I saw that there was much more to physical activity than just the healthy components, but there was also the long-term impact they would have in their career.
We'll take a break now, and we'll come back in a few minutes and discover how Claudine then went from that possible half triumph to fit spirit. Welcome back. I have with me Claudine Labelle, and we are now talking about coaching children. So this is an interesting point, because we're now starting to get sort of the ideas that you can do something other than be a great athlete.
Yeah.
Were you coaching because
I was coaching because I want to give back to a younger crowd as well, but also I want to gain experience to know what exactly it is to be a coach of an athlete. I want to understand what was going on in a coach's mind to be able to bring someone from one level to the next level. And that's really why I did it. When I first started to have those young kids involved in the coach in swimming, it was very interesting to see that they were all coming from various backgrounds, but also with various different attitude and behavior. So I had those girls coming up with those big shoes platform, and they were only 11 and giving me the whatever, right? It's fine. And I told myself, you know what? I have a goal for you. And my goal was, I didn't tell them, obviously, I wanted to have them better in swimming, but I had a personal goal, was to have them with a better and healthier body image, but also building up their self-esteem and self-confidence, and having them being happy about who they are.
Did you not feel perhaps I should leave them alone like my parents did and make their own decision?
No, I didn't know yet what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to help them, but I didn't know how. And this decision about the how would come out later. And so when I had, this idea was kind of in my mind and running, and I just didn't know when would be the appropriate time to start anything. I didn't know exactly what I was going to start. I knew I was going to do it, but I didn't know when.
And this is the lovely period, I think, is so interesting, because so many of us, probably all of us at some stage, say, I could do that, I should do that. But we don't.
Yeah.
Because how you start is obviously the most vital step. So you've decided you want to do something, you're not sure yet what it's going to exactly entail. So what was your first step? What did you do?
I was thinking, you know, many athletes like me want to give back to their community, but they don't know how. I think we can do a speaking tour throughout the schools in Ontario and Quebec, and we can target our message to young girls and have them motivated, interested about physical activity. Just that as a first step. So I called up all the different schools and asked to speak to the principal, and then they asked me to have material sent out and so on, and I was like, yeah, I'll get back to you in a few weeks, because I didn't necessarily understand what was required.
What materials are?
No, what are you talking about? But I was very naive when I first started.
Which is probably a huge strength.
It was great for me. It was perfect, because I didn't know what would come up in front of me, and knowing that all the struggles that would come up also. But I did all the planning of every single schools. I met all the teachers and all the principals that I needed to meet, and saying, I have something great for you. I have those athletes who want to give a speaking engagement. It's going to be for free. And because I didn't have any funding at all, I funded the whole year on my own and paid the athletes to make sure that they could do the speaking engagement. So taking money out of your pocket when you're on mat leave and have a young baby was totally not reasonable, not to be advised to anyone. But it was definitely
how many in your first year then, paying these athletes? So some of them must have done it for pretty much nothing, because they were motivated too, did they?
Well, I had to build up the materials. I had to hire a graphic designer, content writer, do brochures, like all the printing you have to think about. Then I had to build a website. Then I had to have the athletes out. So the first year cost me $20,000.
Wow.
And we visited 15 schools, 5,000 girls.
This is now just in Quebec.
Quebec and Ontario.
And Ontario as
Yeah.
well. Okay.
And that was within 1 month. So that was a first trial. And someone told me, you know, Claudine, this is a big pilot, 15 schools, you shouldn't do that. You know, you'll shoot yourself in the foot. I was like, I have to do it. I was just too stubborn. And what I learned right from then was trust your instinct. If you think it's right, then you can do it. If you think it's wrong, if you have a feeling, even though everybody else is telling you it's right, don't do it. And that's what I started doing from then on. And having those 5,000 girls really excited about what a physical activity can bring them back, and having them being so open about our speaking was a sign that they were actually interested about it. It was very much the opposite of what we saw right at the start of speaking engagement, having girls with crossing legs and arms and, like, you know, looking at you like, what am I doing here?
Yeah,
I'm not interested. Come on. Because we asked the teachers to have all the girls there. So we had the inactive and the active girls there. But this gave them an opportunity to have actually a real conversation with the athlete and asking about, why would physical activity be important to me? Why would I decide to take that step?
So I'm going to stop you there, and we'll come back after this break, because this is an interesting part. How do you actually get these girls to want to
Exactly.
take part?
Yeah.
So we'll take a small break there, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Welcome back. So now we're looking at, I think, one of the most interesting parts of the interview I'm having here with Claudine, because anybody can go in and say, look, I did this and it was a great success. But we're talking to 13-year-old girls who Claudine herself has said, I didn't care. I just wanted to go and play with my friends and socialize and party. So how do you get it so that the girls will see that physical sport, whatever, actually will be positively affecting you, even in work, in socializing? And in fact, it's even cool, because a lot of them must think, oh, this is not cool.
Yeah, exactly. So we're really working on a very positive and strong image. You have the organization's image, but you also have the athlete's image that we just talked about. The organization's image is more about, we are a cool group of girls, we want to do sports, we want to hang out there, and we want to have fun. It's all about the ambiance and all about the cool environment to be in. So if you look like a brand of like Roxy, Quicksilver, they're surfing, what's trendy? We're following the trend. So the message of Fit Spirit is by young girls to young girls. It's not parents that are trying to be cool or adults that are trying to be cool and saying, you should be trying physical activity just for your own good. It's more about, hey, come on, join the group, have fun with us. And that really is appealing to them because they want to identify themselves to a group. They don't know which one yet, but if they pick Fit Spirit, it's a cool group to be part of, and it's a positive one.
So let me now start evolving the vision, because as you rightly said, you did these things, and your idea was to just tell the girls that it's much more sensible to be fit.
Yeah.
But how did the vision evolve? What is it now?
That's very interesting, because someone told me, Claudine, you have to sit down and understand what is your mission, what's your values, what are your key objectives for the next few years. And I was like, I don't have time. I'm more a doer than like just writing these things down. I mean, it's a waste of time. Come on. But it's so important because it really helps you to define the next few steps coming along, and helps you to do the planning as well. So often we don't take enough time to sit down to look forward and ahead of us. So when I first write it down, it was not so different from where I wanted to be. I wanted to be I knew that eventually I wanted to be the #1 organization dealing with girls and physical activity across Canada. That was my sole objective. I didn't know
So
how
a bit
yet.
of ambition here rather than
It was a
goal.
big ambition, especially when you're just doing speaking engagements.
Right.
Because right there, the main intervention that we were doing in the field was public speaking engagements. But moving forward throughout the years, we got about 24,000 girls involved in our speaking engagements. And the teachers were like, super, you motivated the girls. But what's next?
I mean, then it goes down, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That
What are we
you
doing with them?
disappear.
They're super
Yeah.
happy, but what are we doing with them? So we built a program with the school board, the phys ed teachers, the nutritionists, kinesiologists, like a whole team, and brought back a program called the Fit Club, with the intent of having the girls taking action with Fit Spirit. So the program is an 8-week running program that is bringing the girls to their first 5 kilometers ever.
So, the 5 kilometre run, are they all trying to win? Do they get cross if they don't?
Throughout the whole course, the whole run that we're doing, we want to make sure that the girls that are active are not trying to finish a race at full speed, but understand the importance of encouraging their friends that are doing it for the first time, and they need to act as their support. So we're building like a very, very strong relationship among all the girls and saying, you know what, we're there to encourage one another. Crossing the line together is much stronger than crossing the line first and alone.
This costs money. You've got all these activities.
Yeah.
So is it sponsors? Is it government? How do you keep this going?
Well, just imagine when I was actually 23 when I first started Fit Spirit, and then I turned 24 getting to the real world. After 5,000 girls, you have to build up a little bit more capacity. So I knocked at some sponsors' door, and they just wasn't opening at all. And I just didn't know how I would get there, because I had to register as a nonprofit organization. I needed to understand legally what was implying. I needed to build an advisory board in order to get there, a board of directors. And how do you do it? So there was so much logistic involved in Fit Spirit, and so much advice that I needed to get.
None of which you've been trained for.
No, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. How do you manage the books? So it was extremely interesting for me to understand all the different components that needed to be gathered in order to build a nonprofit. And in order to have funding, you needed to be a nonprofit in my end. I needed to be incorporated as well. So it was really good to go through every single step, having advice from lawyer, accountant, and so on, and going from there. And obviously this costs money. So you don't have money yet. You have to invest your own personal money, and then you can grow from there.
And so at the end of all this, Claudine, you may well achieve your ambition, which is to be the biggest organization helping girls in North America.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I think we're getting there. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of stress as well, and for my family, and for me, and for the organization, because if you think about the amount of people that have been through all the ups and downs with me and saying, we'll stick with you, it's extremely powerful for me to say, you know what, I can trust those people. I know they'll be here. Whatever happens, they'll be there with me. And I want to keep those people on board for as long as I can, because they're valuable people. They're there for the right reasons, that's for sure.
But if they have the enthusiasm and the spirit that you have, I think there's going to be no problem. Thank you very much indeed
you
for
for
being
having
on the
me.
show, and we wish you all the best.
My pleasure, thank you.
Perhaps in 30 years' time we'll have another interview.
Here you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudine. And that completes the show today. This is John Myers of Black Isle, and the show From the Top. Hope to see you again at the next one.
Anyone from beginners to expert athletes can join in the activities. Want to know the best part? Our events are organized by girls for girls. No boys allowed.
Fit Spirit!
To learn more about Fit Spirit, visit fitspirit.ca. Ciao, Bella!